Hey my loves, it's been a minute. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to today's tutorial. On today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this dress with asymmetrical neckline and a flutter sleeve. Now, if this is something you're interested in making, kindly keep watching. And also hit on the subscribe button if you've not subscribed. Like and leave your comment in the comment section. Without wasting much time, let's get started. We are going to be starting off with the back pattern. So I marked 1.5 inches from the top to the down and ruled a line across as you see me doing, because you are going to be inserting a zip. From there, I marked half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8, and then I took my neck width 4 inches out of it as you see me doing. Now the neck depth of the back is going to be 2 inches. After I finish marking, I use my curve to mark out my neckline. From there, I went ahead to input my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I got this by dividing my bust measurement by 6 and adding 1.5 inches to it. After I did, I ruled a line across it and joined it to my shoulder, just as you see me doing. Now from there, I divided the armhole depth into 2 and then went in by 0.5 inches and inserted quarter of my bust measurement and added 2 inches seam allowance to it and joined it with my curve, just as you see me doing. To get my shoulder sloping, I came down by 1 inches and joined it to my neckline. Now I'm going to be inserting my waistline, my hip line, and the length of my dress. Now my waistline is 16.5, but then I made it 17 because I'll be joining the shoulder with half. And then I came down by 10 inches to give me my hip line. Now I'm going to be inserting my dress length. The length of my dress is 42 inches, but then I'll be adding 2 inches for hemming allowance. Now after I finish marking out the point, I ruled a line across each of the points that I made, and then I went ahead to input quarter of my waist measurement and then quarter of my hip measurements on my waistline and hip line respectively. For the hem, I just transferred what I had on my hip line onto the hem, and then I went ahead to add 2 inches allowance to the hemline, 2 inches allowance to the hip line, and 3 inches allowance to the waist, as I'll be taking my darts from the waist. Now, after marking out the points, I joined them with my curve to see where I'll be cutting. We are going to be using a basic dart for the dress. Now, the dart is going to start on the chest line or the armhole line for the back. Now, I marked half of my nipple to nipple on the bust and then the waist. And on the waistline, I came down by 6 inches and marked. Afterwards, I joined the 3 points with a rule. And then standing on the waist, I marked 0.5 inches on both sides of the line that we drew. Afterwards, I connected the point with a rule to give us our darts, just as you see me doing here. So after that, I went ahead to cut my back piece out. Now I'll be using this bag to cut the front piece. Now for the front, we are going to be putting the fabric on fold, and then we are going to put the back on, fold the zip line in, just as you see me doing here. So you fold it in. You can either pin it down or you can iron to ensure that it stay down, and then you just cut it out. We are going to be doing the same thing we did for the darts on the back, But for the front dart, our dart is going to start from our bust point. Now my bust point is 11 inches, so I marked out my bust point and then marked out my waistline and marked half of my nipple to nipple on my bust point and my waistline, and standing on my waist I came down by 6 inches and then marked it out. Now from there we are going to be connecting it with our row, and then standing on the waist we go in on both sides by ½ inches and then connect them with our row, just as you see me doing. Now for the front, you open it out and then you go in by 1 inch on one side, and then you come down by 8 inches or 7 depending on how deep you want the neck to be, and then in the middle you come down by 2 inches, and on the other side you go in by half, just as you see me doing. As I said, on one side you go in by 1 inch, you come down by 8 inches or 7, and in the middle you come down by 2 inches, and on the other side you come in by half, and then you connect them to get your neckline, the asymmetrical neckline, just as you see me doing. Now for my sleeve, I placed my fabric on fold, and then I came down from the pointed side 6 inches, and then I marked out the length of my sleeve, which is 10 inches, and then I marked it across, just as you see me doing. So for the crown, I came down by 4 inches and then marked it from one end to the other end. When I finished, I marked my armhole depth on the crown, that is 8 inches, and I added 2 inches allowance. If you want gathering, you can go ahead to add more inches to your armhole depth, and then you can gather from there. So after I finished, I just joined the crown to the down parts of the sleeve, as you see me doing. Now, depending on how much flatter you want your sleeve to be, you can either put it on 4 folds. I didn't want a lot of flatter format, that is why I placed it on just 2 folds. So from the top, I just added ½ inches allowance to it to join it to the shoulder, just as you see me doing here. Now after that, we just cut it out, and then we are going to be using the one that we cut out to cut the other piece of the sleeve, and that will be all for the sleeve. Now we are going to be using our front and the back to cut our lining pieces out. Now the only difference is the lining piece is going to be 1 inch shorter because we are going to use it to turn it inside out. Now for our sleeve, we are going to be hemming it with our bias tape. So you just put the bias tape on the right side, sew it down, and then you turn it over to the left side to hem it. So I'm done sewing my darts, turning my neck inside out, and then also hemming the dress. Now I'll be running loose stitches on my zip line to fix my zip, and then remove it after, and then I'll be leaving a space for the slits, and I'll reinforce the parts between the slits and the zip line. So for joining the shoulder, you take one shoulder of the front and you take one shoulder of the back, and then you open them up right sides facing each other. You join them from the middle, you pin it down, and then you pin the other sides down as well, and then you sew on top. We are going to be doing this for both sides. This is to ensure that after you finish sewing, the seam goes inside and it doesn't show in the dress. So we are going to be closing our dress up with the 2 inches allowance that we left while we were cutting it, and then we use it to shape it out, and then we are going to be cutting the excess parts off after we are done sewing. So after we are done marking our point out, we are going to be joining the point out with our curve, and then we are going to pin it down, and we are going to go and sew on our sewing machine. Now we are going to mark the point out for both sides so that we can see where we are sewing clearly. This is to ensure that you sew accurately. Now for my sleeve, I shaped it out a little bit before marking out my point to be sewn. So this is me shaping it out a bit. So after shaping it out and marking where I'm going to be sewing, I went ahead to notch the middle where I'm going to be attaching to my shoulder, and then I shaped it out a little bit by cutting out the excesses. So after joining the sides, attaching our sleeve and our zip, this is what we had. This brings us to the end of the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.